So thank you so much, every participant who has been joined so far. So now I would like to invite Dharm Rakshit sir to address this conference and opening note for this conference, and especially some overview I have been given it here. So now this conference is over to you, Rakshit sir. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Abir, for inviting me to such a wonderful conference. And I'm really enthused that the almost when the weekend is taking place and the people are still excited to progress on their learning journey. May I make a humble request to all participants who are here? If it is okay, workplace conflict, collaborations, these all kind of things we have discussed too much in the past, and I believe that everyone who are present here might have experienced in their professional journey some point of time, either the collaboration or this all are kind of very normal phenomenon. It is not a very abnormal kind of things what we have witnessed. Okay, and we have some point of time we might have experienced. The question like this thing is why this happens, and is this the only kind of things we keep talking about, the conflict to collaboration or collaboration to conflict, or we need to also shift the entire paradigms to somewhere else. I remember this thing when there was a time, and I defined the entire time journey into the three, particularly the Indian context, and I will also try to see this thing in the global context. In the Indian context, to see this thing, there are three distinct kind of the time zones. One of the time zone when the India got the independence, lot of the statutory frameworks were adopted by India and the industries also, and that era actually became the era of the conflict. And gradually you find this thing, we progress on the era of the very, very violent kind of the conflict. And couple of the area like this thing, the Maharashtra with the Datta Samant, or in the eastern part of the country, where you find this thing, all the left-minded unions that had started actually defining the page of working. And so what actually happened, and I realized this thing that you can find this thing when this kind of the conflict actually started happening, that when it became very violent, most of the industries moved out from the Maharashtra to different states. And today, if you see this thing in the West Bengal or the UP became a dying state. That was the one point of time the Kanpur happens to be the Manchester of the East. Okay. Then after when the globalization happened, and then after again we started finding this thing, some bit of the collaborations, and the people start understanding that there's a need to collaborate. And when there is a need to collaborate, and thereafter to define the relationship and the base of working in a very different economic environment. Last period, I find this thing, and that is I find this thing the biggest kind of the paradigm shift has happened post-COVID. And the COVID, what has actually happened, you might have realized this thing when the lot of the industry were under the lockdown kind of things, when they were not able to generate the revenues. At that point of time, I realized that most of the employers most of the employers, without any hesitations, okay, they came forward and start paying the full amount of wages and the benefits that used to happen before the COVID era. And that actually, I found something that diluted the authority of the central trade unions, and the issues remains very, very low. And today, if you find everything particularly in the blue collar workforce space, the central trade unions are losing their relevancy day by day, and they are getting marginalized. Second important factor, like when the local issues happen, local issues are not creating that kind of the conflict. And that's why I find this thing, I am very fond of the two important words under the industrial relation, productive and progressive. To my mind, what is productive and what is progressive? Even though I have a very harmonious collaborative relationship, but it is not yielding into any kind of the result. Those kind of relationship has no meaning at all. So when the employer and the employee comes together, they might be having a very wonderful relationship, but it needs to create both needs to focus on one aspect of the life to create the wealth. And the second aspect, like this thing, is when you have created the wealth, then ask for your share in the wealth. If you are not able to create the wealth, and then you are asking for your share of the wealth, there cannot be a distribution of the wealth because you have not been able to generate the wealth. So it is the my meaning of the productive relationship. Like I think first, both parties needs to come together without any inhibition or without any hesitation to create the wealth. Second, in the era of the disruption, technological disruptions like AI, like automations, robotic arms, IoT, those kind of things are actually changing the entire work space. And if any of the industry or the people working there, they are not willing to change with and cope up with this kind of the disruptions, perhaps they are not going to survive for a long. So they need to be progressive without having any kind of the understanding or the thought that what we are going to get in turn. That is the necessity. This is not the luxury, like people think that if the technological changes are happening, so if you will pay, then after I will adopt. It is not there. You need to adopt without any innovation, without any discussion. That is the reality if you want to survive in the current economic environment. Now, just see this thing, very interesting kind of things, and I found that the today's the workman, both the blue collar and the white collar, both have realized it very easily. And that's why you see this thing, whatever the changes you are bringing in the terms of the technology, people are accepting without any kind of conflict. And this is the redefining our base of working as well as our relationship at the workplace. Now, you very interestingly you see this thing, the manufacturing sector. Many of the occasions, what we are finding, the thing, my colleague is not going to be a person, but it may be Mr. Soman, can you go on the mute, please? So my colleague may not be a human being, but it can be a robot. It can be a robotic arms, and people are working on that. So this is interesting, babe, because what is the meaning of relation? Relationship is, if I see the Industrial Dispute Act, that defines the relationship between that more a negative way defines what is the meaning of relationship. But if I see it in the real term, what is the meaning of the relationship? Relationship can be with the living and non-living. It can be a living between living kind of things. But relationship is always pluralistic. It is never a singulistic kind of things. It needs to be the two more than one person or the more than one living and unliving thing come together. And why I'm talking about non-living also, when I am actually doing the this address through my computer, I have a certain relationship with my laptop. I have certain relationship with my system, and when it is not properly working, it irritates me. Okay, and tomorrow suppose that I find all of a sudden I find this thing, someone is replacing my laptop. Okay, so I have a sense of like a thing, the sense of belongingness is. So the same thing what happens even the white collar space. If you just change, and I will just give you an example, I will not quote the name of one of my colleagues, and he was asked to shift his desk from one other place, and he reacted. And he reacted very violently because he felt to have some bit of association, some bit of relationship with that very place where he was sitting. And and that is the so far I always understand one very interesting kind of things in the industrial relation when you are managing the employee relations. It is a change management. Although there are the certain bit of the statute is involved, certain bit of the rules, regulation, and the frameworks are involved, but basically largely it is the change management. And this change management, if you are not done properly, the impacts are not seen after a couple of the years, but the impact may be seen within a couple of the hours also. It is very instant and very spontaneous. So whatever the human relation dynamics you want to understand, if you go through any kind of industrial relation crisis, you will become the master. That I give you the guarantee. Because that crisis actually teaches about how the psychology of the human beings, what are the industrial psychology, what are the contextual factors, how people are networked, how the people decode your communication. That all are involved. And many of the time I've seen in a fraction of seconds, you start seeing the result of it. Okay. So this important aspect, anybody who is dealing with this very subject, they need to learn aspects of the change management. And the change management, I always find this thing, if you work on the 3 C, that is the care, connect, and communicate. When you are connected and you are really genuinely showing the care towards anyone, I have dealt with almost all the stalwarts in the industrial relations, the trade union leaders in this very country. I have closed down the 2 factories without much noise. I have actually deregistered one of the union, which is the normally people don't think like this thing. Once the union has been formed, that cannot be deregistered. So I have also gone through this thing. Number of times I have been put under the gherao or all kind of a thing. But I always realize this thing, if you are having the connect with your people, you will not be harmed. People will listen to you. Second, show your genuine care towards them. It should not be a cosmetic. It should be genuine care, because you are the custodian of those very people. You represent those very people in before the management. And if your approach is genuine, people will certainly love you. People will pay the respect to you. So as an IR, I find this thing, the couple of the important aspect of what are the key competencies of the people who deal with this very subject. They need to be a credible activist. They should not be only activist. They should be a credible activist. And credible activists means like this, they understand the consequences and they know this thing of what the people feelings, genuine feelings are there. And genuinely try to work on those very aspects, what are the needs, and try to satisfy those very needs. Second very important aspect, that you should be, when you are talking about the ER competence, you should be aware of the 2 things. What are the compliance frameworks and what are the evolving compliances framework. And that's why you see this thing in the first era, when all the Supreme Court judgment used to come, that was a one-sided judgment that always have taken the Supreme Court or the High Court or any court that the employers are the exploiters. Post 1990, when the liberalization started happening, this shift change happened, and you find the thing in the current time, even a dismissal has happened. Normally, the court doesn't ask for the reinstatement, but they ask for the financial security in terms of the adequate compensation. That the shifts are happening, and you need to understand this. What is the shift? Where the evolving agenda of the ER. Third important aspect, all the workers have become very smart. They are digitally very literate. They are digitally very, very connected. I was working in the Malaysia lab some 10 years back, and there was some issues with one of the company. And within an hour or kind of things, everybody got assembled. That point on the WhatsApp had not come. Today, it is the WhatsApp, social media, and every kind of things. Your issues are not only limited to you. Your issues are globally intensified, and wherever the people see this thing, the opportunity to connect, they come and connect. There are a number of the international federations who are working. Like you work in the FMCG, you find this thing, there's something called the International Workers Union. Some you work in the automobile, you will find a thing, a similar kind of the international organizations are there. And your each and every aspect and thoroughly being examined. So my request, while you are dealing with this very subject, and the next 2 days, when you are actually going ahead with this very agenda and you are taking a deep dive, first do the hygiene. Check all the compliances very clearly and try to understand this thing, that are you meeting with only the given set of the compliances, or you are meeting over and above. Try to meet over and above. For example, the minimum wage is only a prescriptive. Don't make yourself present of that kind of thing, because this is only for the time being. And you understand your people who are working and working hard with you for 8 hours, that this a small amount of money is going to suffice their needs. And if you are earning, you want to have the more and more profitable, you need to give the proper share to them. So do your hygiene, do your groundwork, and be the genuine champion of the cause of those very people who are working with you, because you know the context, nobody else. The upper management doesn't hardly understand that very context, but you are the paper person, and on the ground you understand the context. You deal day in day out with them. So have a very, very genuine way actually to supporting that very agenda. At the same time, also coming and telling us think of what is the harsh reality. These are the realities. So do you need to impress that kind of reality also? And if you are able to maintain a balance, and the last, before I end up my address, I will also like to tell you something that why the unions are formed. Unions are formed, the reason being very simple kind of things, and the manifestation of dysfunctional behavior, because they are not growing socially. As a manager, when we come in the workplace, we start as a management training, then after we start gradually progressing in our social life. And when we progress in our social life, my entire ecosystem keeps changing. But say the thing, an operator has come. Lifelong, he is going to be an operator. So his social life is not changing. So what we are doing to improve their social life? What we are doing, because in this, normally you see a thing, everybody like to grow up. Okay. If they have the competence, if they have the potential to be groomed up, develop that kind of ability. So improve their employability. And the moment they improve you improve their employability, they start understanding the perspective from where which you are. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Okay, thank you for such a wonderful listeners, and I found that there's so many people are there on the weekend kind of things. Thank you.
Sir, I have one question, sir. I am Shoykot from Reliance, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, in our organization, I am looking after the retail part, which is governed by Shops and Establishment Act. And since so many disciplinary proceedings, since we have not initiated the standing order matters and etc., because standing order is applicable for industrial establishment. And though in IR courts, it is still some drafting and etc. is going on. So, sir, is it okay for the all critical cases we are following the model standing order still now? Because still now you have not initiated any standing order procedural approval from Labor Department and etc., sir.
See, the thing, I will just touch upon a very 36,000 feet. Okay. Perhaps yes, Amit is the right person to answer this question, but I will just tell you something. If you are having the many numbers of the cases of indiscipline, look back to your culture. Because my fundamental beliefs are nobody is indisciplined. There's something in your system which is actually irritating them to break the rules. Look back genuinely, and look back, also see from the human aspect. If particularly I see this thing with the retail sector, a lot of the absenteeism happens. Absenteeism, then after you start taking disciplinary actions, okay? But why the absenteeism is happening? Why the people are not willing to come to workplace? That is a more important question to be addressed rather than issuing the charge sheet under the model standing order or the certified standing order. How many charge sheet will issue? But we look back, like, but think of what is incentivizing them or disincentivizing them not to come, and what will incentivize them to come to the workplace. If I work on those very core aspects, that job of creating so many charge sheets, domestic inquiry, and then the procedures, I can save my energy and my people will become much more productive. So see from that very angle, Mr. Saikat, my simple request.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. We should give more emphasis on preventive approach and sir.
Yes, of course. IR is always proactive, preventive.
Yes, sir.
Use your charge sheet once in a life. And once a charge sheet is issued, everybody will give the example that this was charge sheet and person is out. Don't over-index it.
Noted, sir. Noted.
So I will take one more question because I have to go somewhere. Okay. Otherwise, anybody can be connected me on the LinkedIn, and thereafter we can have a chat there. You are on mute.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dharm Rakshit sir, for giving your time as well as your inspiring speech for opening this 2 days conference, especially on the industrial relation, which is not just in the part of the compliances. It is more than that. Just the one key takeaway which I get from the chair's speech, that is the 3C: connect, care, and communicate. If you have to bring a rightly to inspire yourself and inspire the business through people, so the connection, then care, and communication is the key. Now we are going to the first phase of this conference, starting with the first workshop. So here, before that, some the thumb rules I want to